Hi, this is just a short video describing how to add file input/output into your program. And the program I chose, because it was a program that was used in my class before, and it's the rainfall program, which goes through, and basic purpose of it is to just ask the user for the rainfall each month of the year, and then print out the average rainfall, and then just keep track of it. And I put in the rainfall for each year into a file, which then I use. And as I put in more years, then it will increase in size, which is perfectly fine. So then just going through the code a little bit. Again, a reminder is usually I have what the name of the code is, my name, or for you, it should be your name, date, and then the purpose. And then anytime I modify the code, I put down why I'm modifying it, and then what I've done to change it. Usually these are two separate dates. So then the next set of it is IOStream for the CINs and COUTs, IOmanip for spacing the CINs and COUTs, and also the work to the file. And then notice then IOStream is for input output. Then there's a special stream which is related to the file stream. File stream is the main way to use it, and there's a couple of commands that require the S stream, and I'll try to get into that. So using namespace standard, I'm using just the standard library, so I don't have to put in std : in front of everything. And then as we get into classes, you'll start understanding what the : is for. So then this is the main routine, and I say what each of my variables is used for. And then the string, so I can read in, and I will use that, manipulate that later. And then I store everything in a file called rain.txt. This is an array. If you notice with the array, just a reminder, is I don't have to put a number in here if I have an initialization list. So I have it, and it will just calculate that there are 12 items in this list. Then I say I don't have a current file yet, and I'm saying I don't have a duplicate year. This is something I'll be testing in later, and I'll be going ahead, since we're going to go through and be able to allow the code to go through again and again, depending on how many years you want to do. Then this is something that's important. Then I start setting up the input and output. So IOStream is in read, and usually I use input or in read, and outright or output, and depends on what you like better on what you use. Please don't just copy mine, because this is the way I've done it, because I haven't copied in all cases. Then I also have a letter in for testing at the end, and in read, then I open the file name, which is defined as rain.txt. Then I see if it exists. If it doesn't exist, I totally skip this code. That's something important, because you don't want to try to read something that does not exist. If it comes into here, I'm saying current file is true, so I know that there is a current file. And then I read a line, and there's a initial line in the file that I have to read to begin with before I go through any of the lights, and I just go ahead and print it out. then I put out year, and the \T is for tab. So I'm putting out year, sum, and then average. And then I read in and in read. If you notice, this is very similar to a CN. It works identical to a CN. This just means then there are 3 items it's going to read in from each line. And then I'm going to put them out again with a tab, excuse me, with a tab in between. And then I always close the file after I'm done reading it. I can open it up later, which I will do, but I always close the file because I don't like it hanging around. If I'm going to use it for a bit, I might leave it open for a bit, but I have to make sure I note that so that I don't forget to close the file later on. Then I'm going to ask the user to enter a year. And I'm going to say it's not a duplicate year. I'm doing this again because we have a larger do loop here that I can go through this multiple times. And then since I've set current file to true, then in this, then if I go through and I do an in read, just the year, because I've already ran in the data. And then I go ahead and read it in, and then I see if it is the same, then I'm going to say it's true, and I break out of this and close in read. And notice I set duplicate year to true. So if it's not duplicate year, then I go ahead and set sum to 0 and start going through the 12 months. And notice since months is a array, I can just go ahead and index into it, and I'll print out January through December. Then I say in for rainfall. You don't have to have long names for this, but just use names that make sense. Then I try to read in rainfall, and rainfall, if I type in a letter, it will error out. And so this just tells me if I try this, if it gives me an exception error, it will call the exception handler and just then go through. And notice then on this do while loop, if I have retry to true, I'll go through this again, and I set retry to false. And so if everything reads fine, it'll come down here and exit this. And then I start summing the rainfall, and I'll do this 12 times. And that's what the sum plus equals rainfall is just a way of adding rainfall to sum. Then I figure out the average, which is sum divided by 12. And then go through, print out some information. And then if I don't have a current file, this is something, this is the reason why I set it up to begin with. If I do not have a current file, then I will go ahead, excuse me, and then do an outright file name, which sets out outright. So it'll act very much like a cout. And then I just have this line, which is the line I read in to begin with before I start reading anything else. And this is just a file to let me know what this particular file is, which is the header file. which is the first line of the file. You don't have to do this. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but this was just more to show people how to put in a separate line. And then at the beginning, when I do a get line right here, this reads in that one line. Then that is just if the file doesn't exist, I'm just creating it and then putting in a first line. Otherwise, then if you notice, I have an IO underscore base : and this again is an instant of class. This is then a flag that says to append to the file name, instead of the one up here just opens it and I start writing it to the, well, I start writing to the file on the first line of the file. So then this will go ahead and write a new line there. See outright year. Then notice I can have a space here. I can have a space or I can have a tab. Depends on how I want to separate them, but I have to be consistent in how I separate it and what I expect in the read, which we went through at the beginning. So then, and there's one thing I didn't do here. Since I did an open there, then I really need to have an outright close so that the file itself will be closed. And you always want to close it off nice and neatly. And I could probably do this to upper, read it. Then if somebody types in yes or anything else like that, it's just going to compare the very first letter. And if it's a Y, then it will repeat. Otherwise, it will exit the program. Hopefully this is helpful on handling file IO. Again, I open the output file and then I put out any output I want. And then I open it either so it starts at the beginning or sets it up so it appends to the file so that whatever was written there before still stays there, and I'm just appending to at the end of the file. That's one reason why I go ahead and check to see if I've already had the year in there, because if I already had a year, I don't want a duplicate year. And this way, then I don't have to worry about a duplicate year. The file itself won't necessarily be in any numeric order. It will be, what's in it will be arranged by how I enter the years. And so if I enter 2000 to begin with and then enter 1995, then 1955 will come after 2000 in the file. I hope this is helpful, and we'll go ahead and start the process.